Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast. Do you dread hearing the question, what's for dinner? Whether you spend your days keeping up with toddlers, running kids to after-school activities, or juggling a career and family, getting dinner on the table can be a struggle for us all. I'm Mariefiebach, a business owner, wife, and mom of 4. I'm on a mission to build stronger families one dinner at a time, and I'm here with tips, tricks, and inspiration you need to feed your family tonight. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast, episode 164. I'm your host, Mariefiebach, and I'm happy to be here with you today. It is towards the end of 2021, and we're kind of starting to look at 2022, but I have to tell you, my brain still thinks it's like the end of 2020. I feel like I lost a whole year, and I think a lot of us feel that same way, where we just everything kind of became a big piece of mush. But it seems like in the past few months, I personally have been getting a little bit of clarity, and that feels really good. I hope that you are kind of coming out of the fog as well. I know we're not out of this pandemic yet, but I feel like I'm starting to come out of the fog, and that is not a bad thing. As I reflect on this year, I have to share with you one of my biggest aha moments of the year that has changed how I talk about weeknight family dinners. It's something I've always done, but it's different. So stay with me. And when you get to that moment, you'll be like, oh yeah, she does kind of talk about that. And it'll be your aha moment too. So stick with me and we'll get to that in just a little bit. I kind of want to talk about where we've been. I started Feed Your Family Tonight in 2017, and I had an idea of what it was going to be like. And as I look back now at the end of 2021, it is nothing like what I thought it would look like all those years ago. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Isn't that how life always works out? I tell the story. When my husband and I first got married, he lived on the west side of town. I grew up on the east side of town. And if you are from Wichita, you know that there is just a big difference between the feel and the vibe of the east side and the west side. They both have really good people. They both have really good shopping. It's just really different, just a different vibe between the east side and the west side of town. And we decided that we would live out west for 6 months to see if we liked it. After 2.5 years, we bought a house way over on the east side. I grew up going to the same church and the same school, and I swore I would never, ever go back to them. And my husband and I drew a 1 mile radius around the schools that we were looking at to send our children to, and told our realtor, find us a house inside one of these 1 mile radiuses. And I ended up a half a mile from my parents, a half a mile from the school that I grew up in. I'm still in that house 19 years later. It has been very good. I mean, and that's kind of what's happened with Feed Your Family Tonight, is I feel like I'm kind of coming full circle. I have said from the beginning with Feed Your Family Tonight that weeknight dinner success is not about the recipes, but it is about time. And this past year, I have been making a very conscious effort of talking to listeners of the podcast, new members of the Facebook group, new people that are following me on Instagram. And I'm asking them, what is one challenge you face with dinner? And there are 2 things that are coming up over and over and over again. And that is picky eaters and time. So my thoughts back in 2017 were really spot on, that weeknight dinner is not about the recipes. It is about time management. And that is where the Feed Your Family Tonight weekly meal planning sheet came from, because you have to start with your schedule and you have to figure out when you're going to eat before you figure out what you're going to eat. And from the very beginning, I always had a place to put prep on that weekly meal planning sheet. But I didn't until this year really hone in on how that prep was more than thawing meat. When I first started, I would talk about prep as things like thawing meat. But what it really is it is what has become the Feed Your Family Tonight meal planning system. where you have a recipe index of all of your recipes where you know where to find them. You don't have to type them all into one thing, and you don't have to print them all out in a binder. I mean, you can if you want to, but I don't want to print that much paper. And you have them all in one place, and you know how much time that recipe is going to take. And you separate that time into prep time and cook time. Prep time is anything where you are getting ready to cook, and cook is where you are physically adding heat. And you have to think about, is this a hands-on prep? Is this a hands-on cook? Something like a slow cooker might take you 5 minutes to put together in the morning, and it might cook for 6 hours, but it's completely hands-off. Whereas you're cooking a stir fry, and it might take you 30 minutes to cook, and you have to be at the stove the entire time, making sure that all of the elements are getting into the skillet at the right moment so that the dish turns out correctly. While something like roast chicken seems like a long, extravagant meal, I actually look at it as a 6-minute meal. And you're going to say, what? You've heard me, if you've been around for a while, you've heard me talk about how roast chicken is one of my favorite things for a busy weeknight. But when you look at that recipe, you would never in a million years think that that is a perfect recipe for a busy weeknight, because you have to prep it the night before. It's got to sit in the refrigerator for at least 12 to 24 hours. It takes an hour and a half in the oven to cook. But here's the thing. When you prep it the night before, it takes 5 minutes, maybe 10 if you're not as experienced as handling a chicken as I am. I always make 2 chickens, sometimes 3, because then I can have all that extra chicken meat for meals on a day when I'm extra busy. I put it in the refrigerator. It sits overnight. When I'm running my kids to soccer practice or wherever I'm going, I take it out of the refrigerator. I put it in the oven, and an hour and a half later, it is done. I spent less than 10 minutes of hands-on time dealing with this dinner. But do you know why that dinner was possible? It was possible because I planned ahead. I used my weekly meal planning sheet, and I looked at my schedule, and I identified my family needs on the given day. I knew that I was going to have a busy day. I had planned ahead and actually purchased the chicken, so it was in my refrigerator ready to go. Or I was smart enough to thaw it 3 or 4 days ahead of time, because a whole chicken takes a couple of days to thaw in the refrigerator. I mean, it's smaller than a turkey, but it's still a large, solid piece of meat. Takes time to thaw. So I had it purchased. I thought the night before when I was cleaning up my dinner dishes to get it all salted and ready and in the refrigerator. It didn't take me much time, but it did take planning. And you've heard the saying before that for every 10 minutes of planning, you save yourself an hour in execution time. That is no different with meal planning. When you take 10 minutes at the beginning of the week and you use the Feed Your Family Tonight meal planning system and you look at your recipes according to their time, it is going to help you get dinner on the table with ease. The magic of the Feed Your Family Tonight meal planning system is that it helps you think about your recipes in a completely new way. When you are scrolling on Pinterest, or you're scrolling on your favorite food blog, or you're flipping through a magazine in the doctor's office and you're seeing these recipes, when you look at them, you are thinking, how much prep time does it take? How much actual cooking time? Prep time, again, everything that it takes to get ready to cook, and cook when you are adding heat. How much of these 2 different kinds of time does it take? And what kind of night would I make that specific recipe? When you plan at the beginning of the week, you know that you might have to do a little prep the night before. But that little 5 minutes of prep the night before can save you hours the next day in getting dinner on the table. When you're looking at your schedule and you're thinking about meals according to your time, you will start getting more time. You will start having better meals. You're going to have more variety. You're going to have meals that have different kinds of foods that you haven't had the bandwidth to make before, because you start thinking about them in little tiny segments of time rather than looking at the recipe as a whole. And that is the key to weeknight dinner success. And that is the aha moment that I had this year when I started realizing that I was naturally separating prep time from cook time. And I started talking about it on the podcast, and I started talking about it when I was teaching others how to use the Feed Your Family Tonight meal planning system. That is when it all started to click. It's like one domino fell and all the other dominoes started going down the line. Because I have said since 2017, the key to weeknight dinner success is time management. And the Feed Your Family Tonight meal planning system is a time management tool. It is a time management tool. It is a recipe index tool, and it is here to give you time back so that you can have time with your family, so that you can have meals that have variety, so that you can pick a recipe that works in your home with the life that you lead, because we all have different lives, but we're all crazy busy. And that's what it is all about. So today's podcast is a little bit short, friends, because it's the end of the year. We're all spending time with family. But I want you to know that I am always thinking about you. I'm always thinking about your families and how you can get dinner on the table so that you can have the important connections with your family. The family dinner table is a place of stability and predictability. It is a place of connection with your children. And that is my wish for you in the new year, that you have connection with your family and that you take 10 minutes a week and plan your meals so you can get back that time and spend it with your family. So for now, friends, I hope you have a beautiful rest of the year. We're going to be here next week with my friend Rachel Tiemeyer of Thriving Home. We're going to be talking about freezer food. She is queen of freezer food, and it's a great episode. I just have so much fun talking with her every time. And then in the new year, we're going to focus on how you can have more time. So for now, friends, I hope you're doing well. Take care.